Today we're looking at the health of our eyesight and a specific focus on children and the poor eyesight of children. And the big question is, when do you know there's a big problem and when do you know to get help? So we've got Leandra Lombard on the line, optometrist at Krugersdorp Dynamic Eye. Good morning and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, Leandra.
Thank you for having me so early in the morning.
Oh, we're so grateful that you woke up for us. Thank you. Listen, Leandra, it's a big issue, isn't it? I mean, we often don't even pick it up in time. But when children have problems with their eyesight, it could affect quite a bit of their development.
Absolutely, that's very true. You know, there's such a high incidence as much as 1 out of 4 children in a classroom which can have visual difficulty. So, you know, that's quite a high number. And they obviously need to be identified as soon as possible. And, you know, 60 to 80% of what children learn is processed through their eyes. So they really need healthy, functional eyes to achieve that.
You know, I often find, Leandra, the people that are able to pick up on the issues of eyesight are generally people who are trained to do that, you know, your teachers and your educators and so on. But we know that there are a lot of children that are sitting at home who only attend school much later on. So you almost have this time in between the, you know, when they're born and when eventually they get to either a grade 0 where somebody insists that they actually get their eyes tested. As a parent sitting at home, how would you pick up on the problems with eyesight? Are there things that we can look out for?
Absolutely, yes, because we need to know that children don't know how they are supposed to see, you know, so they might not report those problems to you. So you really need to be awake and be on the lookout for that. So one would generally look at things like rubbing their eyes a lot. You know, that could even cause a deterioration to the vision because they remold the cornea. If they squint, obviously, you know, one would want to look into that. If they sit very close to the TV or they might hold a book very close when they read, those would be things one would look at. Even closing one eye when they're out in the sun might indicate some problems. And then, you know, normal reading difficulties or short memory span, those things would also be key factors to look at.
The trick obviously here is that we're dealing perhaps in those very formative years with people who don't have the language to express themselves. So they wouldn't be able to say, well, this is itchy or whatever, because, you know, obviously their language is not quite developed at that point as well.
That's right.
But also that there is a notion as well that, you know, when a child holds a book up very close, that's also pretty normal. So it's quite tricky to sort of see if there is a real problem.
Yes, no, that's true because, you know, that can just be a problem with posture or fine motor skills which is not developed yet, body muscles which is not developed. But, you know, one would need to see that in relation with other things, for instance, you know, those red eyes which there's a discharge all the time. You know, one needs to really look at when these children look at you, if you can see that they are looking at you with both eyes, for instance, when you take a photo of them, look at the reflex of that. So there is really key things which one can look at, even when they're so small.
Sure. We'll take your calls on 011-883-0702 if you are noticing something a little bit out of the ordinary or you're not sure. We've got Leandra Lombard on the line, who is from the Dynamic Eye, and your questions are more than welcome if you think there is something a little bit untoward with your children's eyesight. Now, Leandra, one of the questions I have is, I mean, is it ever too soon to take your child for an eye test? Or you need to wait a little bit?
No, absolutely. They need to be tested as soon as possible. Actually, you know, once they go for their 6-week checkup, when they are small infants, that is part of the routine to look at the eyes. And then, you know, one would definitely want to just have a look at about 6 months if there's any squint which is visible. And then at the age of 3, it's very important also to have a look at some basic skills then. And very important to have a proper and full eye examination before they go to school at the age of 6 or 7. There is definitely some issues which need to be addressed way before they go to school, you know, to be aware of.
Let's talk about eye health and things you can do to prevent eye damage, because, you know, children often, maybe, you know, those particularly in their terrible twos and so on, you want to encourage them to be out and about playing in nature and so on, but you know, it could be quite also very hazardous. So things like looking up in the sun and all of that stuff. So are there things that we can do to teach our children to look after their eyesight?
Yes, definitely. We know as adults that it is important to, for instance, use proper UV protection when we're out in the sun. But children are exposed to sunlight much more than adults, which is sitting in an office. They're on the playground and they're on the sports field. So proper UV protection and proper sunglasses for children is very important. And then impact-resistant eyeglasses would also, for instance, be important when they participate in sports to protect them from eye injury. So a certain material called Trivix is very highly impact resistant. Little things like that. And then proper eye hygiene also, they touch a lot of things and they touch their eyes and it's in their mouth. So proper eye hygiene would always be very important.
We take your calls on 011-883-0702. We're dealing specifically with children eyesight. And if you are experiencing any of those problems with your children, you're more than welcome to give us a call on 011-883-0702. We've got an optometrist here, Dynamic Eye, Leandra Lombard, who's on the line with us. Leandra, one of the questions I often wonder about is in the event that we discover that there is a major problem with the child's eyesight and it needs intervention, is it ever too soon to do things like surgery on a child, or do you always prefer to use other methods of treating the eye? Is surgery sort of the last straw because it may be just too soon for a child?
Yeah, obviously it really depends on the problem, So if there is any concerns, the best would be to take your child to an optometrist which is really qualified to test children, which has got a specific interest in child vision, because an eye test on an adult and an eye test on a child is really very different.
Yes, yeah.
So first do that, and that optometrist would then refer you to an ophthalmologist if there is surgery which needs to be done, or maybe there's a cataract at a very early age, which then obviously would need the attention of a specialist. So I would think an optometrist is more accessible to most people, and that would be the place to start at any age.
What are we doing about the cost of eye care? I mean, I think one of the problems with people not sending children to get their eyes tested and treated and so on, and getting the necessary tools, glasses and so on, is because it's just become so expensive. And people who try and access help from state facilities, often you hear the stories of people being turned back, saying no, they don't have, they cannot give out glasses, even though they understand that people need it. So is there a discussion in the industry about how accessible this healthcare can be?
Yes, that is always a contentious issue. I can talk from Dynamics Vision perspective, the independent group of optometrists which I'm associated with. We have our dynamic deals. We really try and reach out to the public. If there is certain needs, we would like to address that on a personal basis. I cannot talk on behalf of a franchise or a group or the state.
Yeah.
I talk on behalf of Dynamic Vision, and we are independent optometrists. So it's a good idea to have a relationship with your optometrist in your area, the schools, the teachers. Just bring those children under our attention so that we can reach out. It's much easier, I think, for an optometrist to reach out in their area, than just to put this squarely on the state and expect them to carry that weight. So I think we all need to get involved in our certain communities and reach out there and assist those children in need.
Leandra, just give us the details of where your facilities are for people in your area who may want to have an eye test this morning.
Yes, you're welcome. The listeners can go to our website, which is www.dynamicvisionsa.co.za, and there you could look at the optometrist which is the closest to your area. There's a lot of helpful information on there. There's also a helpline which we've got, which is the telephone number 0860 Vision, which they can call with any questions, and they could direct them to the closest optometrist in their area.
Leandra Lombard, who is the optometrist at Dynamic Eye Care, and that's in Krugersdorp. Do yourself a favor. My suggestion to you is that rather be safe than sorry. If you're not sure, rather take the child in for testing. That is your best bet.
Weekend Breakfast on 702. Call us on 011 883 0702.
Well, we continue to